Hi ho everybody and welcome back to D Plus Us Weekly, the show about shows exclusive to Disney Plus where we talk about them episode by episode for our enjoyment and yours. Bright Suns, Happy Pride, Mitch, we have ourselves a brand spanking new intro.
We're back to them dang Star Wars, and with them dang Star Wars had to come some new sexy courtesy of Griffin.
I am real
I
happy
love
with
it. I
how it
hope
turned
y'all
out.
love it. Me too.
Yeah, hope y'all enjoy it. We figured it was about time that the weekly show got its own branding aside from the normal show. Considering I think we do more
up once in a while.
I think we do more episodes of the weekly show than we do the normal show now, but beside the point, hope y'all enjoy the new intro. Painstakingly made over the course of many days where I was not working and had free time. So enjoy that.
We all benefit from your downtime.
Oh yeah. Of course, we're back to talk about a new Star Wars show, Mitch, The Acolyte. But before we jump into it, a little bit of housekeeping. If you're listening to this, thank you for listening. Head on over to the video version to check out that new intro and to just see our faces, see the new assets and whatnot. More coming because I cannot rest. It's literally not allowed. Because I'm bored. But we got all that going on. Also, want to shout out our regular show as well. We have a new episode, also Star Wars related, all about the Bad Batch coming here very, very soon.
This is finally getting to that Bad Batch and just kind of a state of Star Wars / discussion of the Swan, what feels like the Swan song to the Clone Wars style animation. So definitely worth the listen. We had Nick on, who's been on previously for a lot of our Star Wars content. So it's a really unhinged conversation that got into discussions of odd acts of sexuality.
You really gotta just watch
a power outage.
Oh yeah, that did happen.
Definitely a good time.
That did happen.
It did. Are the two things related? You'd hang out. You got to tune in to find out.
Weirdly, yes. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because, frankly, it's weird how they're related, and that is enough to get people in. Couple other notes, quick. During the month of June, it being Pride Month, I do want to quickly shout out the Park Stop Hate fundraiser. Fantastic folks over at Park Stop doing a fundraiser every Pride Month where they are auctioning off artwork based around the theme parks, both Disney and Universal. A fantastic group. All the proceeds are going towards the Trevor Project. We're not sponsored by them or anything, but it's something that I think is super awesome and I want to point out at the top of our shows this month. Got that. Got the normal show. Don't think there's any other housekeeping this week. Next episode.
Let's just get into it.
Yeah, no, let's just get into it. Mitch, it's been a while since we've had a brand new Star Wars show to talk about. We have the first two.
We had a new era to discuss in Star Wars media.
Yeah, we have the first two episodes now: Lost/Found and Revenge/Justice, both directed by Leslie Headland, our showrunner for this show and like the overall creator of this show. What'd you think so far?
There's a lot to like here. And I don't want to get too spoilery off the top if you just want kind of our initial impressions, then we'll get into spoilers on both episodes and kind of where we feel like this is going. The writing at times does feel... It doesn't feel... There are times where the writing is really, really good and it feels very Star Wars. I'm like, I got a bad feeling about this. And there are other times where things fall flat. And I hope that over... like the challenge I've seen in previous Star Wars materials, this isn't just exclusive to the Acolyte, is actors have this preconceived idea of what and how Jedis are meant to act in live action. And it feels like for a lot of performers, it's an odd transition. And I got a sense of some rigidness, some rigidity and some stiffness to some of the performances that we got here thus far. Maybe it's the writing, maybe it's just getting comfortable with these characters. But yeah, there's just something that felt a little less than at times. But in general, I love a lot of the characters and the way that they're developing them, their interactions, the amount of thought that went into the interconnectivity of these characters prior to this show, and we're delving into these backgrounds now, I think is really smart, really well done thus far. I will say I don't want to call it twist because it didn't really feel like much of a twist, but I was, ruminating on where and how they might take this as I was watching the first and then second episodes. And I really had hoped for a longer, um, like, not necessarily like stringing out like the whodunit aspect of this.
Yeah,
What is essentially a
that's.
crime drama with Jedi's. They got to it really quickly. I was kind of coming up with my own theories that were very quickly dashed, but
I mean, it's
I think
also. I think part of the reason is that the who done it, the person who did it, is one of our main characters for the. Frankly, for all intents and purposes, might as well be one of our protagonists. In my
yeah, I
opinion.
mean something that Star Wars always does really well is typically, I mean, unless you're talking about like pure and like whenever we're not talking about the Empire, like when you're looking at the Sith or you're looking at some of what was going down with Vader and his internal conflicts, and you're looking at things that aren't like direct. Like the Empire is evil, yes, but there's a lot of gray area that exists in Star Wars, especially with how black and white they attempt to paint the Force and the Jedi Order and the conflict with the Sith. And I love that this series is exploring more of that gray area.
Yeah, I'm actually really into this show so far. I love the vibe of the High Republic. Um, I think this is going to be a lot of people's first introduction to the High Republic, and albeit it's the end of the High Republic leading into like the Jedi Order as to where they were in the prequels, but I really like the overall arching vibe of it. It feels a lot like Ahsoka felt in the Distant Galaxy at the end, where it
Mm-hmm.
almost has this fantasy element mixed in with it, and I think that that's very interesting, especially in some of the costuming, particularly for May, which we'll talk more about. Um, I like that. I like some of the writing. I would agree that there's some rigidity there, but I think with the one character that I found to be the most rigid, I think that is by design for that specific character. Um,
Yeah,
but I think a lot of this comes down to I just love the vibe. We got a bunch of
yeah,
new
the vibes
aliens.
are
We got
there
a
for
bunch of
sure.
we got so many new droids in like the first episode. It
Oh my
was like,
god,
oh
yeah.
my god, I can't wait to go through all of these, see the fun of this.
You
Like,
know those things are going to sell like gangbusters
mhm.
as soon as those toys hit the shelves.
I will, I will get a Pip as soon as I am able to.
I know you will.
Pip is up
Do
there
we
with
want to
BD.
put our spoilery hats on now? Because I do want to talk about some of the things I, a couple more of the things I didn't like are a little more. Well,
We'll get
okay.
to it. I want to say
So
one more
one
thing,
thing,
but I want to say one more
yeah,
thing before we go full spoilers, which is through these first two episodes, like the first two episodes, I feel like, especially when it's a two episode premiere, can very much be the moment of like, is this worth your time? And these first two episodes absolutely sold me on this show is worth my time. Even if we weren't talking about this weekly, I would still be watching this show, which I think is a very big
it
credit I can
speaks
give to
to
that.
the quality of it. Yeah.
Because very frankly, some of the shows we talk about in the Star Wars camp, I might not necessarily watch week to week if we weren't
Mhm.
talking about it. Like
Bad
Mando's.
Batch I caught up on in batches, so I totally understand
Mhm.
that sentiment.
With that said, let's go full spoilers.
One
Cards on
one
the
one more
table.
thing before we go
Yep.
for spoilers. One thing I really didn't like with regards to the costuming and some of the design. Charlie Barnett playing the Jedi Yord Fondar in this series. Great so far. That's the character to me that felt the most rigid when it came to the writing. I don't know if it was
Same.
for you
Yeah,
as
that was
well.
the same
Okay,
for
yeah.
me,
So
but I liked it.
again, it does feel like that's part of the characterization. I think that's fine. The one thing, why, for the love of God, do you have to have every black male protagonist with this goddamn sideswept haircut?
I am
It's
so hoping that
weird
that was just
looking,
his
and
haircut. I'm
I'm
so
so
hoping that.
over it. It's
But
everywhere.
yeah, like this. I honestly looked past that the minute we got the shirtless scene of Charlie Barnett. Barnett. So
I can understand that, but it just like, yeah, I think character's great. There's some moments of levity there. Just the hair bothers me
no,
because
I
it's
have
everywhere.
I. It's funny because for the most part I like the costuming in this. I do
Yeah,
agree that you know,
That's
we,
the
we
one
go
exception
we
for
go
me.
through the thing. This is mostly in games, where it's like
Yeah.
black people have one hairstyle for like 5 years, and then the games industry as a whole decides, okay, let's move on to the next one, which is dumb
Hey, we
and
have some new
weird. And
technology, so we'll do something different.
yeah, these are humans now that we're doing it to. Uh, I'm not sure if that was entirely on purpose. What the deal was there. I am hoping that it was just his haircut at the time, but who the hell?
Uh,
It never is. This is Hollywood we're talking
I
about.
was gonna say that's giving
Um,
them a little too
that
much
said, I
benefit
do
of the
love
doubt.
Yord. Talking just about his
Yeah.
character, we got ourselves another Star Wars himbo, and I am here for it.
Hey, we got the first yellow crystal force user in live action. I think that's pretty cool. That's something worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah, the yellow was
I
typically
think
the crystal of the Temple Guard,
the
and
Sentinels, yeah.
seeing that here, I love everything about the High Republic, like
Yeah.
the yellow
Let's put on those
crystals and
spoilery
stuff.
hats now. So if anyone who has not watched these episodes, go watch them, come back, listen to what we got to say. But I feel like at this point we're gonna
Let's
start
talk about.
spoiling things without trying. So let's definitely just put that out there. If you haven't watched, go watch it, come back, and we'll spoil the heck out of it.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. Ultimately, I think this is going up there immediately for me with how some of the stuff is done. I think the fight scenes in this have been some of their best yet. I love that opening fight scene. The
I
moment where
did, and
she,
I did until I rewatched it. And if you rewatch it, watch the background
I do, yeah,
because
I watched it. I've watched it twice now. I still love it.
even realizing that they sped it up and they didn't keep the background in regular time and things are moving at like
I don't, I
double
don't
speed.
care on that kind of, on the little nitty gritty details there. It doesn't take me out of
Okay.
it because we got this dope moment where she throws these knives at her, she misses them, and then she pulls them back with the force. Like,
Yeah, it's
one of the promises of this show was that we were going to go a little bit weird with some of the force stuff, which was something I'm excited for. I'm still very excited to see this lightsaber whip.
yeah.
Seeing May's fighting style in particular versus shoot, what's her name? Carrie Ann Moss.
And
Indara. Was really interesting. I would have loved more Indara. And I think
That's
we'll
one of
get
my biggest. That's one of my biggest things. I'm not a fan of is how quickly that character is killed.
I think we'll get more of her.
I think we'll get some flashbacks for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels very much, what's it called? It's almost like the Qui-Gon moment of, oh yeah, Liam Neeson in Star Wars, this is gonna be great. He didn't make it through one movie. What the fuck?
See, I would feel more that way if she was killed off like at the end of the episode. But yeah, I do think we're gonna get more of her, whether it be as in the backgrounds, but also clearly the Force is powerful with her. I could very much see her becoming a Force ghost. Like, I think I don't know if that character is done with yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they'll lean into that, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I love some of the character interactions in this as well. Like, Osha, I think, is a very, very fun protagonist for the series. Of
Yeah.
this former Jedi Padawan who left and is like, okay, what am I going to do now? I guess I will go illegally fix ships where an R2 unit should be doing the things. Like, that's a cool
Well, and
idea.
it's awesome to see like that transition between the different eras. So like in the High Republic, this transition of astromechs are supposed to be doing this work, but there are people that are still doing it under the table.
And of course,
To then
it's the
we get
Trade
to
Federation.
I am okay. We'll get to that in a second. It's interesting to see that transition where like R2 units are being introduced and they're being like humans are being or like humanoids are not doing this dangerous work, which makes sense to then getting to the prequel era. And there's not even a mention of, people doing the work on these ships. It's just astromechs everywhere. So I love that sort of industrialization or seeing this progress in this universe. That kind of undertone of lore is really neat to see. But yeah, let's talk about the Trade Federation a little bit.
I was surprised to see them in any capacity. But I love that it's like, yeah, they've always been kind of sleazy.
It makes sense within the context of Star Wars lore. I don't think it makes sense in the year of our, you know, Lord of the Flying Spaghetti Monster 2024, where we know, like, you don't see as much of it here, obviously, because they're not in it for very long, but knowing the, you know, racially motivated undertones of these characters and the characterizations and
See, I
the,
I know that in the
I don't
creation of
love
them,
that we're going back to this.
that was very much there in the creation of them. I didn't feel it as much in this, which I
No.
feel like is very much to their credit, which and why I'm fine with it. Is no, they're there as their own characters that aren't this absolutely completely out of touch characterization. No, they're just here as business assholes, essentially. That's really all they are in this, and for it to just be a
Thankfully, they're not in it for
essentially
very long.
it's practically a blink and you miss a moment. It's maybe 5 minutes total on the ship. Like, I think that works. I'm always for people trying to take that stuff that might have been that might have been, created from a worse place and trying to redo it to make it better. Like, I think that was something like when we talk about Marvel about Shang-Chi, where it's like Shang-Chi takes a character with an extremely racist background and creates a amazing film. Like, for this to just be a quick beat, like, okay, great, moving on.
Yeah.
That said, will we ever see more of the Trade Federation? God, no. Absolutely
No, we're
not.
done with that ship. We're done with that crew, which is kind of unfortunate because she had that fun interaction with. I have the episode up here. Let me pull. I can't remember the name of the character, but the other crew member is like, "Hey, you should have come out with us," and didn't. It's like, yeah. Philic, played by Anthony J. Abraham, and be like, "Oh, that'd be fun to explore." And now we're never going to see that again.
I would love to see like more mechanic stuff. I love that. Also, that's just another Star Wars thing of let's make it real fucking close to mechanic, but not quite.
But not quite. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the mechanic stuff. I think that's really fun and unique. When it comes to character interactions, I want to bring it back to Yord for a second, but Yord and Jackie, Soul's Padawan, I love their back and forth. Like their first interaction being like, Yord, put your shirt on, like instantly getting into that. Like, this is going to be the humorous pairing in this show. Really like that. Really love Pip. Pip is fantastic and wonderful and adorable. Like, I love this idea of like a utility droid that is literally just a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Soul. Lee Jung Jae is probably my favorite casting in this entire show.
Yeah, and there's a lot of scuttlebutt online of like the inspirations that he drew for the character, and I mentioned Qui-Gon Jinn earlier, and it does feel like there's a lot of inspiration from Liam Neeson's portrayal of the character in Phantom Menace. This very much feels like, okay, it's more of that style of Jedi. I did get a sense like it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds because there was a lot of he definitely doesn't like similar to Qui-Gon. There are rules that are being skirted. He was
Always.
very quick to fall back on emotion and his attachment to May, or to Asha. I'm gonna get the two confused a lot.
Oh yeah.
So that was interesting to see, but
Hey, so did
also,
they in the
yeah,
show,
like,
so we're okay. It's okay for us to do it.
I love his interactions with Jackie, Jackie Lon, the Padawan played by Daphne Keane. Especially there's this one moment, I think it was in the second episode. So we're gonna kind of jump back and forth. So apologies about that.
They might as well be one
where
episode.
where Soul goes to Yord or the group are like, all right, what's the plan? And Yord comes up with this very safe plan, and Jackie's just like, why don't we just send her in? Like, they're twins. Like, just do the thing and be like, yeah, it's actually really smart.
We're doing
And
that.
he doesn't fall back on some of the establishment practices you would expect from the Jedi Order. It's like, yeah, Padawan had a good idea, so we're just gonna do her thing and it's gonna work out, right?
Yeah, I
Right?
love characters like
Right?
this, like Qui-Gon, like
Yeah.
Anakin and Ahsoka in Clone Wars, where it is like, for all this for intensive purposes, when the Jedi, it's always been the preaching that we know, at least in what we have seen, of like, oh yeah, attachments lead to emotion, which can cloud your judgment, yada yada yada, which is great and all for them, but also has always kind of been bullshit.
Yeah.
um,
Well, it's
like
also we're
the most
looking at an
powerful
era.
Jedi have always used their connections to
Yeah.
people.
But I
And
mean, we're also
it's
looking at an era where the Jedi felt very safe, which is why I'm most interested to see how this unfolds. I hope we do get more exploration of the High Republic era as a whole, but knowing that the setting of this show is the end of the High Republic era. So the return of the Sith, the way that conflict is going to unfold is going to be really interesting to see on screen because we've seen the opposite end of the spectrum where the Sith have all of the control and the Jedi are non-existent with the original trilogy. It's going to be very interesting to see the other side of that. And we did get some of that in the prequels and Clone Wars, but I do feel like between Grievous and Dooku and Palpatine and Maul and Ventress, like there was enough there that it still felt like there was a conflict between the light and the dark side. Whereas this is an era that conflict was non-existent, and this is it reappearing for the first time in centuries. It's gonna be really cool to see.
yeah, I'm a sucker for any story where, frankly, the Jedi are wrong.
Yeah, which is every
Which is
story, to
every
be fair.
story. Um, but and it seems like that's what we've got set up here. Like clearly they did something to set off May, to cause May to want to kill all four of these people. Um,
It's
and I
going and
am.
it's got to come back to the fire, right? Like it's
Oh
going to
yeah,
come
of
back to
course.
whatever the events were there. With that flashback is going to be very telling, especially seeing Osha's connection to the Force, especially now with that connection also involving her sister. And we've seen, historically that connection between the light and the dark has led to some really interesting things. We've already got flashbacks here for Osha, or Asha, Osha, I forget.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was Asha.
Yeah,
So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about more of these flashbacks. Is it going to be just internal between the sisters? Is it going to be something that Soul is going to confess, and we're going to go through this whole thing? I'm really curious to see how the rest of
bit of
this
both.
unfolds, and we're not going to have to wait very long because it's only an 8 episode season,
Yeah, I think
so we're
that's
already
why
a
I'm.
quarter of a way through it.
I think honestly that 8 episodes is why I'm fine with the pace they've had so far. Because like these 2 episodes have a breakneck speed.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
they don't let off the gas for sure.
like we mentioned earlier, like how they are like, yeah, this is who your murderer is right off the bat. Um, and that's not really
Which
the mystery of the show. To me, the
yeah,
mystery of the
which
show is
the
who is the
the
Sith Lord.
the titles should have been enough of a giveaway, and I feel kind of dumb for not realizing it. Where all of the titles are dual titles because there are dueling
I love it.
uh
It's
there are dueling
balance.
protagonist arcs between the sisters. The balance between the light side and the dark side.
They have that moment
It's so
in the
good.
Jedi Temple with Soul teaching of talking about balance and these kids absolutely like seeing the events of the show for what it's worth. Um, but
Although
everything
every
comes back
scene
to
with younglings
balance.
in the temple gives me PTSD.
Fair. Don't worry, it's not going to happen for 100 years.
Well,
And then
like
some.
120.
I don't want to do the math. Um,
Hey,
but
if
yeah,
you
we
do the
got this
math
talk
the
of
other way,
balance.
Yoda could show up here, and that would be weird.
Yoda was in the High Republic, so Yoda
But
is in
they
the High
also
Republic
did say
books.
they're not. They're like I can't remember the name of the character. I have the cast list and everything up here.
Yeah, they're not putting Yoda
Um,
in, if I remember right,
they've said they're not going to use Yoda at least in this first season. But
which they shouldn't. So
Vernestra Rowe, I don't know if she's the leader of the Jedi Council at
she's
this
just a high
point, or
member.
yeah, a member of the Jedi Council. Like she comes directly from the High Republic extended universe stuff. So
Mhm.
like that's really cool for fans of that. I never really got into it, but if you are, it's cool, especially since she's got this very unique lightsaber style, this very unique fighting style that we'll see in future
Hopefully,
episodes.
yeah. What I was
Um,
trying to say though with the balance stuff, like we get that moment there, and all of this show is going to all be completely about balance. That is
yeah.
Jedi. The Star Wars always has those deeper themes there. And I think that's going to kind of be the big one here, where ultimately balance is just a point of perspective. I think that's why I really like the dual titles, because like we said, it is the opposing viewpoints on those. Like Lost Found, Revenge, Justice. It is really great, and I think it all comes to head with Torben. Um, that was a macabre moment, and I really loved it.
I honestly lost the actor behind the eyes too, because like going through the cast, I was like, oh, the kid from Game of Thrones and some other stuff's in here. Or Dunkirk or whatever. It's like, oh, that's cool. I haven't seen him though. Like, oh, because he was behind a pile of very convincing makeup.
Yeah, he was great in that. Like, it also has having the Barash vow. I think was really awesome. That's something that originated in the comic books. But that whole moment of like her putting down the poison, and he breaks that vow just to say sorry and drink it, is such a powerful moment for. Okay, now wait a minute. May might be right here. What exactly happened? And having
very
it
poetic moment.
Having the cliffhangers that we do of like, okay, so what really happened there? Who is the Sith Lord? What are the Jedi trying to hide? Why was May never in the system with the Jedi? Like, it's leading to something I think is going to be very, very interesting.
Can't wait to see it week to week.
Yeah, I think the credit I can give to the show is it's not like any other Star Wars we've got, which is what I want from these. So, perfect.
Yeah, I'm very not worried, but like with the pacing of these episodes, I loved the getting to consume 2 of them, and having to go week to week now on this is going to be a burden for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see things. I also just want to quickly shout out Amanda Stenberg acting in this. Her playing both Asha and May, and those are 2 very, very different characters, and she's doing such a fantastic job. Like, she is absolutely killing it. I also want to shout out Daphne Keane, who is Jackie, like you mentioned, just because loved her in Logan, love her in this. She's great. Everyone in this show has been great. The last one I want to talk about is Manuel Jacinto, who's Kamir. Like, even Kamir is such a fun and weird character, and I want to see more of this guy. You may know him from The Good Place.
Yeah, I was gonna say Manny Jacinto in The Good Place is the highlight of that show. So seeing him here is just, I'm so happy. Honestly, again, another actor who just kind of disappeared in the role. I'm like, oh, this is just some dude. I'm like, holy God! And
to be honest,
fucking Jason Mendoza.
It's the long hair and the beard. Honestly,
it really is. Yeah.
Like, I do think the acting in this has been very good. The only weird hang up there is Yord, which I think is by design. Like, this guy is a little bit of a weirdo, frankly.
Yeah. That's one way to put it.
He is stilted. He is by the book because that's what he knows. And I would bet you that by the end of this, show, either he is dead or he is not that stilted anymore. And is a little bit more free flowing as a Jedi. But
very curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, that's all in the future, which we'll be here for because God, I love this show. I love the.
Although next week we're going to be a little bit late with episode 3. Griffin's got plans, so we'll get to it when he's free, right?
No, next week will be fine. It's the week after.
Oh yeah, because we're going to record it like.
Late on Tuesday.
The nice thing too. Shout out to Disney Plus for dropping these things on Tuesday, 9:00 for me, 6:00 for you. It's like, oh, we can just do this on Tuesday night. We don't have to wait until Wednesday.
Yeah, it makes it super easy. So yeah, go ahead and check those out. But until then, Mitch, where can people find us?
At D+us on your favorite social media of choice. Twitter and YouTube are the best places to keep up with us. Griffin's all over the internet at GriffyDpad. It's GriffidPad. I'm everywhere at Mr. Mitch George. And that about covers it.
Yeah, go ahead and check out that stuff. We will see y'all in the next episode. But until then, bright suns and have a magical day.